So tonight for our drawing class, I have a little notes here. I want to make sure that I go through everything. So the goal of the class today is let's have some fun while creating. Now we have one more person who just joined. We're going to follow up, and we're going to continue the learning from last week into this week. And I'm going to skip the part where I ask you guys to show me what you have done so far, just because in this class there's a lot of participants and it would take too much time. However, if you'd like to show me after class, after 8 o'clock, when I'm done with the class, then you'll be welcome to do so. Okay. And and many of you have already sent me your homework and shared with me, and I was happy to reply, give you a little comment or tips. I hope that this was helpful. All right. So today we're going to start with a very simple exercise. A lot of people, when they see me draw or paint, they say, how do you make your lines so straight? Why can't I use a ruler to do my lines? Well, the reason that I can do it is because I practiced it a lot. So the exercise today is we're going to do a whole page of lines going horizontal, a whole page of line going vertical. Feel free to do the exercise at the same time as me. It's extremely simple, but practice makes perfect. So in your page, and I just have a couple of lines here, but just do lines. So the vertical lines, you're just going to cover the whole page with lines. And the more you do them, the more you will be warmed up and the straighter those lines will be. Just using an HB.
Which pencil do you recommend?
I'm just using an HB. Any pencil would work. If you tend not to press hard, then I would recommend you use the 4B. But if you tend to press normally, then you can just use the HB. I'm using the HB. So this would be for the vertical lines. And then we're going to do the same thing with horizontal lines. So when I say horizontal line, it doesn't mean that you're going to turn your book like this and go like this, because this would be vertical lines again. So you leave the book in the same position, and then you do your lines horizontal. You'll see going horizontal for you might be harder, might be easier versus vertical, or vice versa. Each person is different, but practice is what makes it possible to do straight lines without a ruler. So I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to do this and complete this exercise. The next part of our class has to do with trees. So I'm going to show you this painting that I did. Okay, hold on. Like this. Okay. So I've done this painting at Sugar Hill, close to Lafayette Mountain, that you see in the background. And the reason I'm showing you this drawing is because you can see 2 trees here, this one and this one. And this tree here is a lot closer to the viewer than this one. Well, I know that because I was there when I was painting it. But the viewer, that's everybody who sees this painting, can also deduct that. One of the reasons, because this tree is bigger and taller, so it's thicker and taller than the white one here. And the other reason is because of the way that the snow dips here. We can see that it dips, and then it goes like in a little valley here. So we know because of the other elements that this is further away than this one. Although if you were to draw a straight line here, you'd see they're kind of evenly put on the same line. But because so much further away, this one is smaller, and for the other reasons that I mentioned. So we're going to talk about trees, and for this part, I'm going to share my screen. So right now I'm sharing my screen, and it says Chez Claire Art School Drawing Class, May 2020. So Michelle, because I can see you, can you nod if you see it? Yes? Okay. All right. So I just have a couple of very simple drawing that I did that talks about the fact that trees are closer or further away. So between these two examples, we can see that this tree that's on the left, this one here with the round leafy area, is much bigger than this one. So if we look quickly, we could think that this tree, which is much bigger, is closer to the viewer than this one because of its size. But there are other ways to show, when we are doing the drawing, there are other ways to show that one object is closer or further away than the other. And in the second example, the tree with the leaves, this one and this one, they're approximately the same size. I know it's not perfect, but they're approximately the same size. And the tree trunk, this one and this one, are also approximately the same width. The main difference is where the tree is planted. So this tree on the left is planted equally next to this tree, whereas this one here, the one that's on the left-hand thumbnail, the tree is planted much further away from the viewer as the two branch tree. So one way, when you're doing a drawing, one way to show an object is further away than the other object is to make sure that the table or the ground where it's resting, it's resting further away from the viewer than another object that's next to it. So now the exercise is for you to reproduce these two little drawings in your book. Now I want to show you that these are thumbnails. So the size that you are to draw them, if I can find it. It's in this book. So they're pretty. Oops, I should stop sharing. Show you. So they're pretty small. So they're maybe 4 inches high and maybe 3 inches wide. So what I did is it's half the page. So each one is a quarter page. So the two that I want you to do are these two. I'm going to share again. These two. So I'll give you 10 minutes to do these. It's a fairly simple drawing.
Hi, Claire. Sorry, did I miss anything regarding the homework?
Hello, Aaron. You're going to have extra homework, of course, because you were late.
Of course.
Not really. I'll repeat at the end what the homeworks are. So you haven't missed much. And
Okay.
also, you can always watch the beginning of the class because I recorded it.
Okay. I just meant like regarding the previous homework. I wasn't sure if there was something that we were supposed to be doing with it.
Well, did you do the lines, vertical and horizontal?
Yeah, I'm talking about the pathway drawing, or is that just we did the homework and then that like we're not doing anything with that else? Do you know what I mean?
All right, I'm going to restart the sharing. And now I'm going to move on to the next one. So the next slide that I have is I want to show you a couple of paintings that have trees in it. Look how this beautiful, bright yellowish tree right there in the middle. It's very majestic. And this painting actually is called Mid-Valley Morning by Chula Beauregard. I wish I had painted it, but it wasn't me. And the reason why I'm bringing this and I'm showing you this painting is because it's got this magnificent tree that is very close to us as the viewer. And next to it, like on either side, so right here on the right-hand side, and also right here on the left-hand side, you can barely see the other trees that are there. And they are much smaller and much more subdued in terms of colors and tone. So this tree here is probably much smaller than the mountain that's behind it, but because it's much closer to the viewer, we see it as even taller than the mountain. So that's one way. It's the concept of perspective, but that's one way to represent an object and say, and it's the way that the painter or the person who draws can tell the viewer, this was much closer to me. And in this other example here, this painting is called Bracket Creek by Aaron Shore. This guy, he paints in plein air, meaning outside. So he painted this outside in the snow. And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is because it's a little creek, a little bit like what we did last week. But on either side here, there's these pine trees. And this one here, more specifically, is a lot closer to us compared to the ones that are right over here in the middle of the painting. They're probably all even inside or very close to being even in size, but this one here is much closer to us, and that's why it appears to be much bigger. It is also a much darker tone than these other ones here. Part of it could be because there's a lot more shadow on it, but also because the colors are more vivid usually when it's closer to us. So now, using this as my guide, I will demonstrate how to add trees to the drawing that we did last week. So I'm going to stop the sharing because I want to show you my book. And as I'm doing the demonstration, you are welcome to do, the same thing on your own drawing or just watch. It's up to you. So it's always inspiring to see some of the great work by artists, other artists. That's why I want to share that with you guys. So this is a drawing that the demonstration drawing that I did last week. It's just a little road or creek that we have right here in the middle. And one of the main difference from the creek that is on the picture I just showed you is in this one here, the grass or the land on either side of the road or creek is much darker than the actual creek. Whereas because of what I showed you, it was a snow scene, then the creek was much darker than what was on either side, because on either side was a snowbank and it was the snow, so it was much lighter. So sometimes it's a reverse from what we have here. Let's add a pine tree over here, and then we'll add a tree with leaves on the other side. So to add a tree, usually I just go with the middle part of the tree. It'll be pretty tall, and there are all sorts of different fir trees, but we'll just do one that is kind of like this. a happy little tree, like Bob Ross would say. So I'm just drawing it very roughly. We can grow a tree very easily. It almost has like a little star at the top. It's almost like a Christmas tree. Once we can finally get out of our houses, it'll be like Christmas. So the tree trunk has to support this whole big tree. I want to make sure that I make it sturdy enough. And sometimes with the kneaded eraser, you can delineate a little bit better, you know, the bottom of the branches by just pressing a little bit like this. It helps to show that, this is where the tree is, because my background is very dark. It doesn't mean I have to lighten everything else, but this shows my tree. So now this is a tree that's right very close to the viewer. And to do this, I'm using I have used the HB, but you can use a 4B. This is a 4B. You can use that to do this. Now, if I were to place another tree like a little further away, like over here, now this tree would be, if in reality the tree is the same size as this, because it's further away and to show perspective, it would be a tree that would be thinner, skinnier, and it would also be a lot shorter. There. Just by doing these things, then the viewer can already tell that this tree is further away. And if I decide that, well, maybe it's not that dark, it should be a little lighter, then I can use my kneaded eraser and just lighten the colors a little bit, or the tone, I should say. So now we have added a couple of trees. But we didn't add any trees in the back, the very far background. So I'm going to use my HB to do this. Now this road or creek goes like this, and it goes this way behind this tree, and then it gets lost in the distance. But I could indicate a couple of little trees just like this. And this gives a little bit of the sense where the creek is, if I say that these were done right on its side. And if I want to lighten it a little bit to make sure it goes backwards, then I can use this. Now on the other side, I'm going to add a tree that has some leaves in it. So using my 4B, I would plant the tree almost the same plan as this other one, maybe just a little higher. And this time I'm going to do a tree trunk with the branches. Branches are going just about everywhere. And now I want to add some leaves. So as I add the leaves, over here, the leaves, to add the leaves, you just want to put a mass. What's happening now is that because my background mountain is the same tone, then there's no contrast between my tree and that mountain. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my kneaded eraser. When the kneaded eraser gets dirty, then I just fold it some more and it cleans it. I'm going to use the kneaded eraser to lighten this area to show that this is the tree in the front of the mountain. Like if you can imagine the leaves are like they are today in the spring, very, very light. And so therefore, they appear lighter than this background mountain. It have to be all of the leaves, but as long as we can see and delineate where the leaves are and where the mountain ends and where the tree is, then that's good. Now that I've done this, I want to come back a little bit and show some of the branches, but not necessarily everything, because the branches they get lost sometimes behind the leaves. Now we've added this tree. It actually looks like it would it wants to have some branches lower as I'm looking at it. So I'm going to add a lower branch. Maybe over here, this one, like this. So now as I'm doing this, what's happening is the same problem is happening that I have here at the top. For the bottom part though, because the leaves are in the shade, it's the ground I'm going to lighten up next to the trees, next to the tree, there. There. So now we have added a couple of trees in our landscape. Sorry. So I like this creek because it's the same, almost the same shape as what we did last week with the mountains in the back, except it's reversed in the sense that the snowbank on the side is lighter, and the creek itself is darker. And there are trees here. See these nice, beautiful trees. So next week we will start drawing this. This is very complex. However, we can simplify it, and I'll show you, give you a hint of how we can simplify it. It's very light, but see how I simplified it very much? There's a little creek here, and then one mountain that will be the dark mountain here, and then two other ones. And then if I go the next step, so we'll do the creek first with the mountains, and then we'll add the trees. So this is what we're going to work on next week.
Cool.
It's this. So it should be fun because it's a little bit, it's like like a continuation to what we started with. We started with a creek, then today we worked on the trees, and next week we're going to put it all together doing that drawing. Now's the time for me to tell you again what your homeworks are. I have a little list here. Oh yes. So the first one, if you haven't had a chance to finish our first exercise, which was to do horizontal lines and vertical lines, you should try and finish it. If you did finish it, suggest you do another one, because you can never practice your lines enough. The second exercise would be the exercise where you did the two little trees. So these two little trees in this thumbnail, and then this other one, this other thumbnail. And I'll send you this. If you haven't had a chance to finish it in class, suggest that you finish it as your homework. And then the other homework will be if you didn't finish those trees, adding the trees to your painting, yeah, to your drawing, then you should do it. Now, if you haven't, if you have finished all of those, or would like to do even more homework, you can always find a nice photo or a nice painting of a creek and do a drawing of it. So this concludes the class for today.